Kyle was always curious about new places and different worlds. That was one reason he became an engineer and joined the Interplanetary Research Program. Now, he was traveling on a shuttle to a planet called Solara, a place full of blue lakes, wide rivers, and gentle rain. This world was home to the Solari, an alien people who lived both on land and in water. The project was a big deal for both humans and Solari. Their teams were supposed to work together and learn from each other. Kyle wanted to do his best, but he was also nervous. It was his first time meeting the Solari, and he did not want to make any mistakes. When the shuttle landed, Kyle stepped out into the humid air and saw the Solari for the first time. They had smooth skin that shone pale blue or soft purple, big, gentle eyes, and webbed fingers. They wore simple clothes made from woven grass and shimmering shells. Kyle found them beautiful and strange at the same time. He tried not to stare. The human and Solari teams gathered near the research base. Their leader, Mr. Carter, spoke about how this was a new beginning, and how both teams would work side by side to study the lakes and rivers of Solara. Kyle listened but kept glancing at the Solari. He wondered if they thought humans looked strange. After the speech, the team members introduced themselves. Kyle met Megan, another human scientist who seemed friendly and easy to talk to. He also met Dr. Wren, an older Solari with a kind voice, and finally Laia, a young Solari scientist. Laia was shy and kept her eyes low. Her skin was a pale blue that changed slightly when she moved. She had small, silver lines across her cheeks, which looked like natural marks. Laia spoke in a soft voice, her English careful and a bit slow. She told Kyle that she studied water plants and small creatures that lived in the lakes. Kyle smiled and said he liked fixing machines, building things, and exploring new places. For a moment, neither of them knew what else to say. Megan tried to help, joking that Kyle would soon swim faster than a Solari. Kyle laughed, but Laia only smiled a little and looked away. The next few days were busy. Kyle worked on setting up water pumps and testing new equipment. Laia checked the water samples and watched the small animals they caught in nets. Sometimes their hands touched when passing tools or notes, and Laia always pulled away quickly. Kyle thought maybe she was just shy with strangers. Whenever he tried to start a conversation, Laia would answer politely but never say much more. Kyle hoped she would feel more comfortable with time. One afternoon, the air grew hot and sticky. The sun was bright, and even the Solari seemed bothered by the heat. Kyle wiped sweat from his forehead and noticed Laia looking at the lagoon near their base. The water was clear and inviting, sparkling in the sunlight. Kyle remembered how he loved to swim back home during hot days. He turned to Laia and said, "It's really warm today. Would you like to go for a swim in the lagoon? It looks nice." Laia looked surprised. She blinked her big eyes, unsure what to say. "Swim? With you?" Kyle nodded. "Yeah, just to cool off. It's really relaxing. I used to do it all the time on Earth." Laia glanced at the other Solari who were busy working. She hesitated, then nodded very slowly. "Okay, I can swim with you." They walked to the water's edge. Kyle took off his boots and shirt and stepped into the cool water. Laia watched him carefully, as if studying a new animal. She moved more slowly, sliding into the water with barely a ripple. Her skin seemed to glow even brighter in the lagoon. Kyle smiled and dived under, letting the coolness wash over him. He popped up and saw Laia watching him. "Come on," Kyle said, waving her over. "It's great. Try to float like this." He leaned back and floated on his back, looking up at the sky. Laia watched, then tried to copy him. She was a good swimmer, but her style was different, more like gliding through the water. Kyle showed her how to kick her legs and move her arms the way humans did. She watched his movements and tried again. This time with a small smile. They swam together for a while, and Kyle felt happy and free. The water was cool, and he forgot about the heat and all his worries. Sometimes he dove under and came up near Laia, who would splash him gently with her hand. They laughed together, and for a moment, Kyle felt like they were just two friends having fun on a summer day. After some time, they left the water and sat on the soft grass. Laia was quiet again, but her cheeks were flushed a deeper blue. She did not look at Kyle, but she smiled a little when he thanked her for swimming with him. "That was nice," Kyle said. "Maybe we can do it again sometime." Laia nodded, but her eyes were far away. She wrapped her arms around her knees and seemed lost in thought. Kyle wondered if he had done something wrong, but he decided not to ask. Maybe she just needed some quiet time after being with someone new. They walked back to the base in silence. Kyle dried off and changed his clothes. Megan saw him and teased him, saying he already looked like a real Solari after just one swim. Kyle laughed and told her how he tried to teach Laia to float. Megan grinned and said that was brave of him. That night, as the sun set over the lakes, Kyle lay in his bunk and thought about the swim. He felt good about trying to be friendly. He hoped it would help Laia feel more at home with the humans. He did not notice that, across the base, Leia was talking quietly to Dr. Wren. Her cheeks still glowing blue, Laia told Dr. Wren about the swim with Kyle. She spoke about how he had invited her and how he had taught her new ways to move in the water. Dr. Wren listened carefully. She asked if Laia felt happy with Kyle. Laia nodded, saying she liked spending time with him, even though it made her nervous. Dr. Wren smiled and said sometimes friendship grows from small acts of kindness. She reminded Laia that the Solari had old traditions about swimming together, and sometimes humans did not understand them. Laia nodded, not sure what to think. She knew the swim meant something special, but she did not know if Kyle felt the same. The next morning, Kyle woke up feeling fresh and ready for another day. He was eager to get to work, but when he saw Laia, she acted different. She smiled shyly at him, then turned away quickly. During breakfast, she brought him a piece of fruit he had never tried before. It was sweet and juicy. Kyle thanked her, but Laia just nodded and hurried off. Megan watched the exchange and raised an eyebrow. "Looks like someone likes you?" she teased. Kyle just laughed and said maybe Laia was trying to make friends. He spent the day fixing a broken water pump with Laia nearby. Sometimes he caught her looking at him, but she always looked away fast. The other Solari whispered and giggled when Kyle and Laia worked together. Kyle started to wonder if he was missing something, but he told himself it was just part of working with a new culture. As the sun went down, Kyle thought again about the swim and how it seemed to change something between him and Laia. He did not know it yet, but that small act of friendship would start a chain of events neither of them expected. The sun came up early over Solara, turning the clouds pink and gold above the blue lakes. Kyle woke up feeling rested, but a little puzzled. He remembered how Leia had brought him the strange fruit at breakfast and then hurried away. He remembered how the other Solari kept glancing at them and laughing quietly, as if they were sharing a secret. Kyle did not know what it all meant, but he hoped that his swim with Laia had helped her feel more welcome. That morning, the team had to check the lake water for signs of pollution. Kyle walked to the dock where the water testing equipment was stored. He saw Laia standing by the edge, her toes in the water, staring out across the lagoon. When she saw him coming, she quickly looked away, her cheeks turning a deeper shade of blue. She held something in her hands, but she hid it behind her back. Kyle smiled and said good morning. Laia answered in her quiet voice, barely above a whisper. She held out her hand, offering him a small, round stone that shone with pale green light. Kyle took it, surprised by its smooth surface and gentle glow. He thanked her, not sure what to say. "It is a river stone," Laia explained softly. "They are rare. I thought you would like it." Kyle smiled, touched by the gift. "Thank you. It's really nice." Laia seemed happy but also nervous. She looked down and wrapped her arms around herself. For a few seconds, neither of them spoke. Megan walked up, holding a notebook and a cup of coffee. She saw the stone in Kyle's hand and grinned. "Getting gifts now?" she teased. Kyle laughed but felt his face go red. "It's just a rock," he said. "Laia said it's special here." Megan raised her eyebrows and nodded. "If you say so." They all went to work, testing the water, taking notes, and studying small creatures from the lake. Kyle noticed that Laia stayed close to him, helping with every task and always offering him the best tools first. She brought him another fruit at lunchtime, even sweeter than the first one, and a blue shell she had found by the water. Kyle started to feel like he was in the middle of something important, but he did not know what. The Solari scientists on the team watched them all day. They would talk to each other in their own language, glancing at Kyle and Laia, then whisper and laugh. Kyle could not understand what they were saying, but he felt their eyes on him. After work, the team had a short meeting in the main building. Mr. Carter, the human leader, talked about the next big step for their project. They would be measuring water flows and mapping the underwater land. He asked Kyle and Laia to work together on the new equipment, saying they made a good team. Laia smiled at the words, but Kyle saw her cheeks change color again when the meeting was over. Laia stayed behind as the others left. She waited for Kyle at the door, holding her notebook tight. "Will you walk with me?" she asked quietly. Kyle agreed, and they walked along a path beside the lagoon. The air was cool and soft. They passed bright flowers and little animals with shiny shells. Kyle liked walking here. It was peaceful. Laia was quiet for a while, looking at her feet. Then she spoke. "Kyle, can I ask you something?" She said. He nodded. "Of course." She looked up at him with her big, shining eyes. "How do humans choose their closest person? How do you find someone to stay with?" Kyle was surprised by the question. He thought for a second before answering. "Well, we spend time together. We talk, help each other, do things we enjoy. Sometimes it's just friendship, sometimes it's more. If two people feel the same way, they decide to be together. There are many ways, it depends on the people." Laia nodded, thinking hard about his answer. "Do you give gifts? Or do you do something special?" "Sometimes we give gifts, yes. Or we help with something important, or just spend time together," Kyle said. "We try to be kind." Laia thought for a while, then looked out at the water. "Do you swim together?" Kyle smiled. "Sure, if we like swimming. It's just fun. For us, on Earth, swimming is something we do with friends or family." Laia was quiet. For Solari, swimming together is special. It shows trust. It can mean you want to be close. Kyle blinked, suddenly wondering if he had done something wrong. He remembered how the other Solari had laughed and whispered. He wondered what swimming meant to them. Before he could say anything, Laia changed the subject. She invited Kyle to a gathering the Solari would hold that night. It was a kind of party, with singing and games by the water. She said it was important to her and hoped he would come. Kyle said yes, happy to learn more about her culture. He wanted to understand her and her people better. Laia smiled with relief. That evening, Kyle got ready for the gathering. Megan saw him trying to make his hair look neat and teased him again. "Big night with Laia, huh?" Kyle laughed. "She invited me to a Solari party. I think it's important to her," Megan nodded. "Just be yourself, they'll like you." When Kyle reached the gathering place, he saw lanterns made of shining shells hanging from the trees. The Solari wore bright clothes and painted marks on their faces with blue and green colors. There were bowls of sweet fruits, and the sound of singing came from near the water. Laia found Kyle and gave him a shell necklace, which she helped tie around his neck. "This means you are our guest," she explained. Kyle thanked her. He felt nervous but excited. The Solari sang songs about the lakes and the moon. They played games that used water and light, making the lagoon shine with colors. Some of the games were simple, like racing small boats made from leaves. Others were strange to Kyle, like dancing in the water while making patterns with their arms. At one point, Laia took Kyle's hand and pulled him toward the water. She led him into the shallow part of the lagoon, where other Solari were splashing and singing. Laia showed him how to move his arms and hands in the water, making gentle waves that glowed with soft blue light. Kyle tried to copy her, laughing when he made a big splash. The Solari around them laughed too, but not in a mean way. It felt like they were all together, sharing something important. Kyle felt happy and welcome, even if he did not understand. Everything after the water games, the Solari gathered around a big stone. Laia stood next to Kyle and spoke in her own language. The others listened closely. When she finished, they all cheered and splashed water into the air. Kyle turned to Megan, who had just arrived. "Do you know what's happening?" he asked. Quietly. Megan grinned. I think Laia just told everyone you're her special person, she whispered. Kyle felt his face turn red. What? Are you serious? Megan nodded, still grinning. It's a big deal. I heard the salary talk about swimming together as a signal. You might have done something important without knowing it. Kyle was shocked and didn't know what to say. He looked at Laia, who was smiling at him, her cheeks bright blue in the moonlight. He wondered if she thought he had promised something or if he had made a mistake. He realized he didn't really understand her culture, not the way he thought he did. Later that night, as the party ended, Laia walked with Kyle along the shore. She looked happy but also shy. I hope you enjoyed the gathering, she said. It means a lot to me, Kyle nodded. It was wonderful. Thank you for inviting me. Laia touched his arm gently. Tomorrow, maybe you will come with me too. See my family. They want to meet you. Kyle smiled, but inside he felt a little nervous. He didn't want to hurt Laia or make her feel bad, but he also didn't want to promise something he didn't mean. He decided he would talk to Megan first and try to understand what was happening. That night, Kyle lay in bed thinking about everything. He held the glowing stone Laia had given him and stared at the soft light. He wanted to be a good friend to Laia, but he was worried he had started something he didn't mean. The lagoon outside was quiet, but Kyle's thoughts were busy and full of questions. If you want the next part, just let me know. The morning air on Solara was fresh and gentle. The lakes were smooth and shining under the early sun. Kyle woke up feeling both nervous and confused. He remembered how Laia had asked him to meet her family. He remembered what Megan had told him the night before about how swimming together was a big sign for the Solari. Kyle was not sure what to do. He liked Laia and wanted to be friends, but he did not want to hurt her feelings or make things strange between their teams. Kyle got dressed and walked to the main building for breakfast. As soon as he entered, Megan waved him over. She had a knowing smile on her face. Big night yesterday? Megan said quietly. Kyle nodded. I think I might have made a mistake, he whispered. You said swimming means something special to them, Megan nodded. I did some reading last night. For the Solari, swimming together, especially the way you did, is almost like a promise. It means you want to be close, maybe even start a family one day. Kyle sighed. But I just wanted to be friendly. I didn't know. Megan put a hand on his shoulder. You have to talk to her, Kyle, but do it gently. She's brave for inviting you into her life like this, Kyle agreed. He knew he had to clear things up with Laia, but he wanted to do it in a kind way. He finished his breakfast, then went to meet Leah by the lagoon, where she was waiting for him with a bright smile. Laia was dressed in her best clothes, with small shells braided into her hair. She looked excited but also nervous. She handed Kyle a fresh flower from the water's edge, its petals glowing softly. My family is waiting for us, she said. They made special food. I told them how you helped me learn to swim in your way. Kyle smiled and thanked her for the flower. As they walked together along the shore, he noticed the Solari they passed nodded at them and gave friendly greetings. Some children followed them, laughing and calling out. It seemed like everyone knew about him and Laia. Soon they reached a roundhouse made from woven reeds and bright stones. Laia's family was outside, busy setting food on low tables and hanging decorations. Her parents, older and kind-faced, smiled at Kyle. Her little brothers and sisters peeked out from behind their mother. Curious about the human visitor, Laia's mother greeted Kyle and offered him sweet fruits and a drink made from clear blue berries. Kyle tried the food and thanked them for being so welcoming. The family spoke mostly in their own language, but Laia helped translate. After everyone had eaten, Laia's father asked Kyle questions about Earth. He wanted to know about rivers and lakes there, and if the people also swam together. Kyle answered carefully, saying that on Earth, swimming was a fun thing friends and family did, but it did not always mean something special like it did on Solara. Laia's parents seemed to understand, but they watched Kyle closely. The children asked him to play with them near the water. Laia laughed and joined them. Together they played games with smooth stones, skipping them across the lake and building small towers with shells. After a while, Laia and Kyle walked alone by the water. The world was quiet except for the gentle waves and birds singing in the trees. Laya looked happy and peaceful. I am glad you came today, Laya said. My family likes you. Kyle nodded. He looked at the ground for a moment, thinking about how to say what was on his mind. Laya, he began, can I ask you something? She nodded, her big eyes full of trust. When we swam together, did it mean something special to you? Megan told me it is important for Solari. Laya blushed, her cheeks turning a deep blue. She nodded slowly. It is a promise, she said softly. It means we trust each other and maybe want to share a life if we both wish for it. Kyle felt his heart beating fast. He did not want to make Laya sad, but he needed her to know the truth. On Earth, swimming is just something friends do, or families, Kyle said. I like you, Laya. You are my friend. But I did not know it meant so much to you. Laya listened, looking a little worried. I'm sorry if I gave you the wrong idea, Kyle continued. I want to be your friend. I care about you. But I did not mean to promise anything more. For a moment, Laya was silent. She looked out at the water, her face still and serious. Then, slowly, she smiled. I understand, she said. I was scared to ask you. I thought maybe you wanted to be with me always, but I am happy to have your friendship. Kyle felt relief wash over him. He reached out and gently squeezed her hand. I will always be your friend, he said, Laya. Squeezed his hand back, and together they sat on the shore, watching the light dance on the water. Back at the research base, things felt different. The Solari team still watched Kyle and Laya, but now they seemed more relaxed. Laya talked and laughed more easily around the humans, and Kyle felt more at home with the Solari, but not everything was simple. Some of the Solari still thought Kyle and Laya would become partners. They gave them special gifts and invited them to join family gatherings. Kyle thanked them but tried to explain, with Laya's help, that humans and Solari sometimes saw things in different ways. One afternoon, Megan found Kyle fixing a water pump by the shore. How did it go with Laya? She asked. Kyle smiled. We talked. I told her the truth, and she understood. We are friends, Megan nodded. Good, you did the right thing. But just as things were starting to feel normal, a problem came up. The research base's water system began acting strangely. The pumps made odd noises, and the water filters clogged with strange green plants. The Solari scientists looked worried. Dr. Wren, the Solari leader, called a meeting. He explained that a new kind of fast-growing water plant had spread through the lagoon and was now blocking the pipes that brought water to the base. If they did not fix it, the base would run out of clean water. Kyle listened carefully and offered to help. He and Laya teamed up to look for a solution. They studied the plants and tested different ways to remove them. Kyle used his tools to clear the pipes, while Laya tried to find a natural way to stop the plants from growing so quickly. The work was hard, and the team grew tired. Sometimes the Solari and humans did not understand each other and argued. But Kyle and Laya kept working together, showing everyone that teamwork was possible. One evening, after a long day of work, Kyle and Laya sat together by the water again. They watched the sun set over the lake, painting the sky orange and gold. Do you ever miss home? Laya asked. Kyle nodded. Sometimes. But I like being here. I'm learning so much. Laya smiled. I am glad you came. Even if we see things differently, we can still help each other. Kyle nodded. That's what makes it interesting. They watched as small lights from the base began to glow in the growing dark. Even though things were not perfect, Kyle felt proud. He and Laya had learned to understand each other a little more, and that made everything seem possible. As night fell, Kyle promised himself he would do everything he could to help the team, the Solari, and his new friend. He did not know what the next day would bring, but he was ready for anything. As long as he and Laya faced it together. If you want the next part, just let me know. The days after the trouble with the water plant were long and tiring for everyone at the research base. Kyle woke up early each morning, his mind full of problems to solve. The new green plant in the lagoon kept blocking the water pipes, and the base was running low on clean water. Each day, Kyle and Laya worked side by side, pulling thick clumps of the plant from the pipes and trying different ways to stop it from spreading. The work was hard and sometimes made Kyle feel frustrated. He missed the easy feeling he had when he first arrived, when every day felt like an adventure. Now the humans and Solari were tired, sometimes even arguing about what to do. Megan tried to keep the peace, but she too was tired, and her voice sometimes sounded sharp. Dr. Wren, the Solari leader, was worried and spent hours looking through old Solari books, searching for answers. One afternoon, Kyle took a break by the water, rubbing his sore hands. Laia sat beside him, her feet in the cool lake. She watched the water quietly. Kyle wanted to say something, but he was afraid to complain in front of her. He knew the Solari felt as worried as the humans did, maybe. Even more, Laia looked at him and smiled, even though she looked tired. "Thank you for working so hard," she said softly. Kyle shrugged. "I wish I could do more. I keep thinking there's a better way to fix this." "We will find it," Laia said. "My people believe the lake has its own way. Sometimes we just have to listen." They sat together for a while, watching the little waves. Kyle found the quiet peaceful, even though the problem still hung over them. He was starting to understand that Laia likes silence sometimes, and he was learning to be quiet with her. Later that day, Dr. Wren called everyone together for a meeting. He explained that the green plant was called Kali, and that it only grew so fast when the water was warmer than normal. The base's machines, which cleaned the water, also made it warmer by a few degrees, which was helping the Kali spread. "We need to cool the water before it reaches the base," Dr. Wren said. "If we do that, the Kali will not grow so fast." Kyle thought about this. "Maybe we can use pipes that go deeper into the lake," he suggested. "The water down there is colder." Laia nodded. "That could work. And maybe we can use rocks to block the sunlight so the Kali does not get so much light." Everyone began to talk, sharing ideas. Megan suggested using the Solari's old fishing nets to pull more Kali out. Soon, the room was full of hope again, and the team got to work. For days, the humans and Solari worked together. Kyle and Megan set up new pipes that reached deep into the lake, bringing up the coldest water. Laia and her friends placed large rocks over the shallow places where the Kali grew thickest. Some Solari swam underwater for hours, tying the old nets to heavy stones, then pulling up the green plants and leaving them on the shore to dry. It was hard work, but something changed between the humans and Solari as they worked. They shared jokes and stories, and even Megan started laughing again. When a problem came up, they talked about it instead of arguing. Kyle was happy to see the team working like a real group again. One morning, after a long night of work, Kyle and Laia sat together on the dock, their feet dangling in the water. The air was cool, and the sky was still dark. "I'm glad we're working together," Kyle said. Laia looked at him, her big eyes bright. "I am too. I have learned so much from you." Kyle smiled. "I've learned a lot from you too. Like how to listen and how to be patient," Laia laughed softly. "You are learning well." For a moment, Kyle thought about the first time they swam together. He realized how much had changed since then. He and Laia were no longer shy, and the awkwardness was gone. Even the other Solari treated him like family now. After another week, the pipes were clear and the base had fresh water again. Dr. Wren thanked everyone, and Megan called for a small celebration. That night, the teams gathered near the lagoon. Just as they had during the first Solari party, this time Kyle felt different. He did not feel like an outsider anymore. He helped carry food to the tables, joked with the Solari children, and listened to Megan tell funny stories about Earth. Laia was always close, and sometimes she would take his hand or give him a gentle smile. After dinner, some Solari started to sing. Their voices were soft and beautiful, rising and falling like the waves. Laia sang too, and Kyle listened, feeling calm and safe. As the night grew darker, Laia and Kyle walked along the water's edge. The moon was bright, and their shadows danced across the sand. "I'm happy we fixed the problem together," Laia sighed. "Me too," Kyle said. "I'm glad we talked honestly." "I was worried I had hurt you," Laia shook her head. "I was sad at first." But now I see that our friendship is strong. You did not mean to promise more, but you have given me kindness. Kyle nodded. I want to keep learning about your people. I want us to always be friends. Laia smiled. You are brave, Kyle. Most humans would be afraid of making mistakes. But you try and you care. They stood quietly looking out at the water. Kyle thought about how much he had changed. At first, he wanted to show the Solari what humans could do. Now he just wanted to understand them, and he wanted them to understand him. After the celebration, the teams returned to their rooms. Kyle lay in his bed, tired but happy. He thought about his family on Earth and how proud they would be of the work he was doing. He hoped they would meet the Solari one day and see the lakes and gentle people. The next day, the teams got back to their science work. Kyle and Laia tested the water and watched the Kelai plants, which were finally shrinking. The base ran smoothly and the leaders from both groups were pleased, but there were still small problems. Some Solari, especially the older ones, still thought Kyle and Laia should be together as a couple. They asked questions or left small gifts by Kyle's door. Kyle was always polite and thanked them, but he tried to make it clear he and Laia were just friends. Sometimes this made him feel awkward, but Laia helped him. She would talk with her people, explaining that humans saw things differently. One afternoon, Megan asked Kyle if he ever thought about going back to Earth. I miss it sometimes. Kyle admitted. But I'm not ready to leave. I like it here. Megan grinned. You've changed, you know. At first, you were worried about saying the wrong thing. Now you just try your best, and that's enough. Kyle smiled. It helps having good friends. As the sun set, Laia found Kyle by the water again. Will you swim with me? She asked. Kyle looked at her, remembering how their first swim had caused so much confusion. He smiled and nodded. I would like that. This time the swim was easy and calm. They moved together through the water, not as a promise, but as true friends. There was no awkwardness now, only trust. The water was cool and full of stars from the night sky above. Kyle felt happy and at peace, knowing that he and Laia understood each other at last. When they left the water, they sat quietly on the shore, wrapped in warm blankets. Laia leaned against Kyle's shoulder, and he did not pull away. I am glad you are here, she whispered. Me too, Kyle said. The night was quiet. And for the first time, Kyle knew he belonged. If you want the next part, just let me know. Kyle woke up before dawn. The warning lights by the water tank blinked red. He hurried to the control room and saw Megan already there, her face tight with worry. What is it? Kyle asked. Megan pointed to the monitor. The underwater sensor shows a fault line moving. If it shifts, the base could flood or lose power. We need to act fast. Kyle swallowed hard. He felt his heart pound. We need to warn Dr. Wren and the Solari team. They ran to the lagoon and found Dr. Wren and Laia checking the sensors. When Dr. Wren saw them, he nodded gravely. The fault line is near our deepest pipe. If it moves, the cold water inflow will stop, and the base will overheat. Laia looked at Kyle. We must fix it now before the shift, Kyle agreed. Let's gather the team. We need both human and Solari skills for this. They called everyone together. The humans and Solari listened as Dr. Wren explained the problem. Megan added details about the sensors. Kyle sketched a quick plan, build a support brace around the pipe, and add shock absorbers to protect it if the line shifts. Laia offered an idea. Use Solari's strong reef vines to wrap the brace and hold it in place. We will need to dive down to attach the brace, Kyle said. I can handle the metal work, and Laia can help underwater. Laia nodded. I will guide you. They split into teams. Some prepared the brace from alloy panels. Others cut and wove the reef vines. A third group set up pumps and cables. Kyle worked with two Solari divers, Karin and Mia, to test the brace on the shore. It is strong, Karin said, pressing the vine-wrapped steel bars together. It will hold. Mia smiled at Kyle. Good work, human. Kyle felt proud. Let's get it underwater before the shift. Megan and Dr. Wren stayed on shore, monitoring the sensors. You have 10 minutes before the fault line moves, Megan called. Kyle and Laia swapped gear. Kyle strapped on his diving pack. Laia adjusted her fins. They nodded and dove into the dark water. Bubbles rose around them as they swam toward the deep pipe. The underwater world was quiet. Small fish swirled around the pipe and glowing algae lit the way. Kyle followed Laia's bright skin as she led him down. When they reached the pipe, it loomed large against the lake floor. "Here," Laia whispered, pointing to a crack forming along the metal. The fault line was close. Kyle shook his head. "We need to move fast." He opened his toolkit and pulled out clamps and connectors. Laia held the vine-wrapped brace in place. Kyle tightened bolts as fast as he could. Water pressure pushed against him, but he worked steadily. Suddenly, the lake floor trembled. Rocks fell, and the pipe shook. "Brace yourself," Laia yelled. Kyle held onto the brace. He felt the pipe shift slightly. The bolts held. Laia tied the vines tight around the metal. The tremor passed, and the water became still again. It held. Kyle said, relief in his voice. Laia smiled. "Good, now we secure the rest." They moved down the pipe, attaching smaller braces at regular intervals. Each time the lake floor shook, the vines and metal held firm. Kyle's arms burned, but he did not stop until the work was done. Above them, Megan's voice crackled through the radio. "Sensors are stable. The fault line has shifted past our pipe without damage." "Well done." Kyle grinned and gave Leah a thumbs up. "We did it." They surfaced and removed their gear. The other team members cheered. Dr. Wren came forward, his antennae raised in joy. "Thank you, Kyle, Laia, and everyone. Your work saved the base." The Solari put their hands on Kyle's shoulders in respect. Megan hugged him tightly. Kyle looked around at the combined team humans and Solari working together, cheering and clapping. He felt warm inside. That evening, the base had an unexpected celebration. They sat under lanterns by the lagoon, eating food and talking. Laia sat next to Kyle. She gave him a small shell carved into a heart shape. "This is for you," she said softly. Kyle took it and smiled. "Thank you. I will cherish it." Laia blushed a pale blue. "You earned it. You are brave and kind." Kyle looked at her, then at their friends. He felt gratitude for this world and its people. He held the shell and thought about how far they had come since the first swim. What began as a simple act of friendship had grown into a strong bond of trust and respect. Kyle and Laia stood and raised their cups. "To our friends," Kyle said. "And to many more adventures," Laia added. They drank together, surrounded by laughter and hope for the future. That night, Kyle lay in his bunk. The shell lay in his hand. He thought of the next day's work and of Laia's gentle face. He was ready for whatever came next, knowing that, with friends like these, he could face any challenge. Kyle woke to the soft hum of the bass. It was early morning on Solara, and the sky was a gentle mix of pink and lavender. He stretched and looked out the window at the calm lagoon. Last night's celebration still made him smile. He stepped onto the balcony and saw Laia near the water, her skin tinted with dawn's colors. She was placing small stones in a pattern along the shore. He walked down to join her. "Good morning," he said. Laia turned and smiled. "Good morning, Kyle." They stood together, looking at the stones forming a spiral. Laia explained that her people use spirals to show new beginnings. Kyle touched one stone. "It is beautiful." Laia nodded. "I want today to be a new start for us." "As friends and as colleagues," Kyle agreed. "I am ready. Let's do our best today." They returned to the base and began their work. The research team planned to study the deep lake currents today. These currents carried warm water from the equator to the poles. Understanding them could help both humans and Solari manage their water systems better. Dr. Wren gathered the group. "We need to place sensors at the deepest points. Kyle and Laia will lead the dive. The rest will help with equipment and data." Kyle checked the dive gear while Laia gathered special Solari water guides. These guides were small, glow-finned fish that lit the dark depths. The guides would help them see and find the sensor spots. At the lagoon, Kyle and Laia donned their suits and masks. They kissed each other's cheeks, a friendly gesture in both cultures, and dove in. Bubbles rose around them as they followed. The glow-finned fish into the deep water. The world below was quiet and blue. Strange plants waved in the currents, and schools of fish shimmered around them. The light from the guides cast eerie patterns on the rocks. Laia pointed ahead. There's a deep crevice. That is where we must place the sensor. Kyle nodded and swam. Forward, he held the new sensor in one hand and his toolkit in the other. They reached the crevice and found a flat ledge. Kyle set the sensor down and opened the toolkit. Hold it steady, he said to Laia. She placed her hands lightly on the sensor. Kyle attached small anchors to the surrounding rocks. He worked carefully, tightening each bolt. The fish glowed brighter as if cheering them on. Suddenly, a strong current rushed through the crevice. Rocks and debris swirled around them. Kyle felt himself pushed back. Hold on, Laia shouted. She wrapped her arms around the sensor and braced herself against the ledge. Kyle grabbed her arm. We must finish quickly. He clamped the final anchor and closed his toolkit. Done! Laia released the sensor and pointed to the current meter. The machine began to hum, collecting data. Just then, a large shape passed in front of them. A giant creature with fins as wide as Kyle's chest swam by. Kyle gasped. Laia smiled. A lake manta. They are friendly if we do not scare them. The manta paused and looked at them with calm eyes. Kyle felt awe and fear mix inside him. Then the manta turned and glided away into the darkness. Kyle released a breath he did not know he held. It is okay, Laia said. They watch but do not harm. Kyle nodded. I understand. Thank you for helping me. I would not have stayed calm without you, Laia smiled softly. We make a good team. They led the guides back toward shallower water. When they surfaced, Megan and other team members cheered. You did it, Megan called. Data is coming in. The currents look perfect. Kyle and Laia smiled at each other, proud of their success. Later, in the lab, Kyle and Laia reviewed the data. The currents were consistent and could help design better pumps. For both species, Dr. Wren praised their work. This data will change how we manage water. You two are responsible. Thank you. Kyle looked at Laia, who looked back with bright eyes. He felt happy and fulfilled. That evening, Kyle invited Lea to walk with him along the lagoon. They carried cups of warm berry tea. I have learned so much, Kyle said. About your world, about teamwork, and about friendship. Lea nodded. And I have learned about human courage and honesty. You helped me when I was shy. You always try to understand. They sipped tea in silence, the fireflies dancing above the water. Suddenly, Laia looked at Kyle and smiled. Kyle, I have a gift for you, she said, and reached into her pocket. She pulled out a small, smooth shell carved into a spiral. Kyle recognized the pattern from their first morning together. This is for you, she said, to remind you of new beginnings. Kyle took the shell, touched the spiral, and felt warmth in his heart. Thank you, he said. I will always remember. They sat together until the stars filled the sky. The next day, it was time for Kyle to think about his return to Earth. A new shuttle would arrive in 2 days. Kyle felt a mix of excitement and sadness. Megan found him by the water tank. You will be missed, she said. You and Laia changed this base. Kyle smiled but looked distant. I will miss this place too, but I will return one day. That afternoon, Laia came to Kyle's room. She held 2 small waveshell necklaces. For you and Megan, she said. A gift from my people. Kyle touched his necklace and smiled. Thank you. He said, I will wear it always. Laia then looked serious. Will you take me to Earth one day? Kyle's heart leaped. Yes, I will invite you. You will see my home and my family. Laia's eyes shone with happiness. She stepped forward and hugged Kyle tightly. He held her close, feeling the soft glow of her skin against his suit. The next morning, the shuttle landed. Humans and Solari gathered to say goodbye. Dr. Wren shook Kyle's hand. You have done great work. You will always be welcome here. Laia stood next to Kyle, holding his hand. Goodbye, Kyle, she said softly. Thank you for everything. Kyle looked at her and smiled. Goodbye, Laia. See you soon? He stepped onto the shuttle, his heart full of memories. As the shuttle rose into the sky, Kyle looked back at the blue lakes and the smiling faces of his friends. He promised himself he would return, and that their friendship would last beyond worlds. The lagoon's water sparkled below, whispering of new beginnings and many adventures yet to come.